What's going on, everybody? So today's question was about ministry. The question was, how do you know when it's time to step down or out of a ministry? And I thought it was a good one. That's why I didn't let you guys vote for this one. I thought it was a good one just because it obviously directly related to my stepping down from this ministry. So I figured it'd be a good one to kick it off after my little intro to being back video. So I'm hitting it real quick right now, going to pick my daughter up from school. It's a pretty long drive from where I live. So I'm cruising. Figured I'd try to knock one of these out real quick. So, when do you know when it's time to step down from a ministry? I didn't get a whole lot of context, so I'm not 100% sure if we're talking vocational ministry, if we're talking volunteering. I'm not 100% sure, so I'm going to try to hit just both of them. And honestly, I think it kind of applies to both anyways. I don't think you really need to separate the two. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into the stepping down from vocational ministry because we're talking about your livelihood, we're talking about your job. And I mean, it's obviously like, it's pretty much your whole life. If you're in vocational ministry, it's pretty much your whole life. Whereas if you just volunteer in something ministerial, you volunteer. It's not your whole life. But for those in vocational ministry, it is your entire life. So there's a lot to it. So there's a lot to talk about. One of the first signs that maybe it's time to step out of whatever ministry you're involved in, I think should probably come from your prayer life, right? It should be that little tugging on the heart when you're praying. It should be maybe that feeling that you're getting when you're in that ministry, when you're in the thick of it, doing whatever it is that you do. I think a lot of it's going to come from feeling, unfortunately. Now, I want to distinguish the difference between feeling, godly feeling, and emotion, because there's a huge difference and it needs to be distinguished. Emotions are unreliable. Emotions, in my opinion, should not be counted on. No major decision should be made based off of emotion. Emotions are fleeting. They come and go. They're not here to stay. We all know that by now. And if we don't, then we damn well should, because that is the reality. Your emotions are just not reliable. Never should we make huge life decisions, and especially not decisions with our faith life or our life in ministry, based off of emotion. When I'm talking feeling, I'm talking feeling. Like that deep in your soul, your gut feeling that you get, sort of like confirmation. Christians will talk about confirmation. Well, how do you know you should do that? They'll say, well, I got confirmation. And when Christians talk about confirmation, usually, it's when you get that, kind of like a second opinion from a doctor, but without the doctor knowing that he was supposed to give you a second opinion. You catch what I'm saying? So basically, let me give you a little something here. If you go to the doctor and he says you got a broken leg, and you're like, it doesn't feel broken, maybe I should go get a second opinion. When you go see the second doctor, you show him your leg. So he's already geared on the leg. And you're like, well, this other doctor said it's broken. What do you think? So now he's already got all that in his head. So he may just look at your leg and be like, oh, yeah, it's probably broken, without even doing anything. That's not what I'm talking about. Christian confirmation, at least in the general sense, is when, say, I've been praying about whether I should leave my ministry or not. And then somebody else comes along and they were like, dude, I just been feeling really heavy lately that like maybe you shouldn't be in this ministry anymore. That maybe you should be broadening your horizons, or maybe you'd fit better over here, or something like that, without you ever saying anything to that person at all. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about confirmation. Unaided confirmation, where there's no way that person could have known that you've been considering that. There's no way that person could have known you've been praying on it, you've been talking to God about it. There's just no way that person could have known. And yet they come into your life and they confirm that maybe that feeling you've had is a legitimate feeling, and maybe you should deal with that feeling. That's what I'm talking about with confirmation. I think that is one of the biggest ways that we should strive to try to make some of those hard decisions. Now, the problem is that that's not always going to happen. Not even at all. Not even a little bit at all. So then what do you do from there? I guess in my opinion, obviously, of course, I would really just try to reevaluate the ministry itself. I'd pick the ministry apart to the bare bones. What am I doing here? What is God doing here? What is my place in what God's doing here? Do I feel like I'm actually contributing to something otherworldly, something bigger than me? Do I feel like I'm furthering God's kingdom? Do I feel like I'm doing all these things that I know that I should be doing because it's my job? whether it be vocational ministry or it's your job as a volunteer or whatever, or if it's something like what I'm doing right here. And that's exactly what happened to me. Is all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, it was a slow decline. But after the slow decline, I got to a place where I was like, look, I'm not fit to lead this ministry anymore. I'm just not there. So I had to step away. But it wasn't right away. You guys know it was a slow decline. The videos became less frequent. I was putting less into them. Things were just getting bad. And honestly, it was really, really funny. I remember this comment that somebody left on one of my YouTube videos. We're like pretty close to there at the end. And all he said was, you can tell Joe's just getting tired of this shit. And I died laughing because it was so funny. And it was so funny because he was true. In a sense. I wasn't actually tired of doing this shit because I could never get tired of doing this. But I got why he said that. Like, I understood the look in my face and where I was at and what I was saying in the video. I got why that's where he was. Like, I understood. I could sympathize with the reason that he said it. It made sense. I wasn't actually sick of this shit. I'm not sick of this shit. I could never get sick of this shit. But I was sick of my own shit. And that was showing through my face in my ministry. So that, to me, was sort of like confirmation, you know? I already knew something was awry. I knew something was not the way it should be. And then somebody comes along and is like, hey, something is not the way it should be. And I was like, okay, all right, fair enough, random person on YouTube. But you know, there's a lot of things. Where's your drive? Where's your motivation? Now, we're obviously going to go through seasons where you just don't have the motivation you had before. You just don't have that drive that you had before. You know, you're feeling kind of dry with your drive, and that's all right. That happens. It's okay. Everybody experiences that. That doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, mean that you should be stepping down from your ministry. But if you were like me, where, say you're a pastor, and your messages are just getting, again, dry, or your messages aren't quite making sense, or they just don't have you in them anymore. Like, you as a person are not present in that message anymore, and it's really just something you're putting out there, you're spitting out on Sunday morning, and then you're going back to your house and doing your thing. If that's the case, then maybe it's time to evaluate whether you should still be in that ministry or not. And a lot of the time, it may just be for a season, like me right now. You know, I had to take a little hiatus. I had to go away because I just wasn't in it anymore. My heart wasn't in it. My mind wasn't in it. I just was not in it. And so I shouldn't have been in it anymore. And so I got out of it. But I think there's a lot of indications like that. Drive, motivation, you've got confirmation. There's a lot of things you can pay attention to that will kind of tell you, or at least start to tell you, whether it's something you should sit down and try to evaluate. Obviously, evaluate it through prayer with God, and then try to unpack all that, and then evaluate it with yourself, logically, rationally. Is this what I should be doing anymore? Is there something that I'd be better fit to lead or do? Is this just not my place? Have I outgrown it? Should I have never been here to begin with? Did I jump in here for the wrong reason? Should I reevaluate and see where my place really should be within the church or within the ministry or within a different ministry? There's a lot to all of this stuff. But there is a jumping off point, and I'm going to cut it off right now because we're already at least 7 minutes. I can't really see, but at least 7 minutes. So I'm cutting it off. There's my 2 cents. I love you guys. I hope you have an awesome day. It's snowy and gross here in Chicago right now, but I'm about to get my kid, and that will brighten up everything real quick. I'll be posting the list on Instagram probably tonight or tomorrow, so we can get to voting on that next video. Hope you guys are doing good. Glad to be back. Much love. Peace.